When most people imagine millionaires, their minds immediately jump to images of luxury cars, sprawling mansions, expensive designer clothes, and extravagant lifestyles. The word rich often carries with it the illusion of constant indulgence, a life where money flows without limits, and every desire is instantly fulfilled. But here's the truth. Reality is shockingly different. The majority of millionaires in America don't look like what Hollywood shows us. In fact, many of them live right next door. They aren't flashy, they aren't wasting their money on fancy things, and you probably wouldn't even guess they're wealthy at all. This is the powerful message of The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas J. Stanley and William D. Danko, a book that uncovers the hidden truths of America's wealthy and teaches us how they actually build and keep their wealth. The authors spent years researching the habits, lifestyles, and mindsets of real millionaires, not the celebrities or athletes who burn through their fortunes in a few years, but the quiet, disciplined individuals who build wealth steadily and maintain it across generations. What they found is surprising and deeply eye-opening. The average millionaire doesn't live in Beverly Hills, Manhattan, or some luxurious private island. Instead, they live in middle-class neighborhoods, drive modest cars, wear normal clothes, and are often the exact opposite of the people we imagine when we think of rich. They're teachers, engineers, small business owners, farmers, accountants, ordinary people who made extraordinary decisions with their money. One of the key revelations of the book is this: wealth is not about how much you earn, but how much you keep and grow. That's right. You could be earning 6 figures a year and still be broke if you spend recklessly. On the other hand, someone earning far less could build lasting wealth if they live below their means, save diligently, and invest wisely. This flips the popular belief on its head. We live in a society where income is often celebrated, but the authors remind us that high income without discipline is meaningless. True wealth comes from managing money, not just making it. Think about it. How many times have we seen people with luxurious lifestyles suddenly collapse financially? Celebrities who once had millions but ended up bankrupt? Professional athletes who earned more in a year than most people will in a lifetime yet retire broke? These examples prove that money without financial discipline is like water in a leaking bucket. No matter how much you pour in, it eventually runs out. But the millionaires next door, the ones you'd never expect, master the art of plugging those leaks. They prioritize saving over spending, investments over luxuries, and freedom over showing off. The authors highlight something crucial. Many millionaires are prodigious accumulators of wealth, PAWs. These are people who consistently save and invest far more than the average person in their income bracket. They have a high net worth not because of luck or inheritance, but because of daily habits that compound over time. On the flip side, there are under-accumulators of wealth, UAWs. People who may have high incomes but spend most of it on maintaining a flashy lifestyle. These are the people who look rich but aren't actually rich. They might drive luxury cars, live in big houses, and wear expensive clothes. But behind the curtain, they're often drowning in debt and living paycheck to paycheck. The sad reality is that society celebrates UAWs because they look successful. But the true winners are the PAWs who quietly build lasting wealth. Here's an example from the book. A wealthy businessman was interviewed about his lifestyle. He lived in a modest house, drove a used car, and rarely bought expensive clothes. People often assumed he wasn't very successful, but when his net worth was revealed, it shocked everyone. He was worth several $million. Meanwhile, someone living in a mansion nearby, driving brand new luxury cars, was actually deeply in debt and struggling financially. This contrast teaches us an important life lesson. It's not about looking rich, it's about being rich. The millionaires next door follow certain consistent habits. First, they live below their means. Instead of constantly upgrading their houses, cars, or wardrobes, they stick to affordable and practical options. Second, they value financial independence over social status. They would rather have freedom from debt than the admiration of strangers. Third, they are disciplined savers and investors. Their wealth is not built on a single big win, but on years of steady and consistent actions. One of the most striking themes in The Millionaire Next Door is the sharp difference between appearance and reality. In our culture, people are trained to judge success by what they see: the kind of house someone lives in, the brand of clothes they wear, or the car they drive. But the authors repeatedly show us that these external signs are often misleading. Many who look rich are actually drowning in debt, while those who look ordinary are the ones who truly hold financial power. This is where the concept of financial independence comes in. For most self-made millionaires, the ultimate goal was never to impress others, but to create freedom. They wanted the ability to live life on their terms without being controlled by money problems, debts, or constant financial anxiety. Freedom was more important than luxury, and long-term security was more important than short-term pleasure. The millionaires studied in the book revealed a very disciplined pattern of behavior. They budgeted carefully, tracked their expenses, and were conscious of every financial decision. While most people spend impulsively and chase the next shiny object, these individuals took a different path. They asked themselves, will this purchase bring me closer to financial independence or push me further away from it? This simple question guided their lives. For example, when it came to cars, the average millionaire didn't run to the dealership for the newest model. Instead, they often purchased reliable used cars and kept them for many years. Why? Because they understood that cars lose value the moment you drive them off the lot. For them, cars were tools, not trophies. The same logic applied to houses. Instead of buying the biggest house they could afford, they chose modest homes in good neighborhoods, places that were comfortable but not extravagant. They valued peace of mind over impressing the neighbors. Another key point the book emphasizes is the role of discipline and consistency. Wealth is not built overnight, and it's not built on luck. It's built on countless small, smart choices made daily, year after year. Millionaires are not necessarily geniuses with superhuman intelligence. They are people who understand the importance of habits, persistence, and self-control. They avoid lifestyle inflation, which means they don't let their expenses rise automatically every time their income increases. For most people, as soon as they start making more money, they immediately upgrade their lifestyle. Bigger houses, fancier cars, more expensive vacations. But millionaires resist this temptation. They keep their spending relatively stable, and they channel the extra income into investments. This is how wealth compounds over time. The authors share data that shows the typical millionaire spends far less than the average person might expect. Their clothes are often off the rack, not designer labels. Their watches are functional, not luxury brands. Their meals are more likely home-cooked than eaten in expensive restaurants. In fact, many millionaires are so frugal that their children sometimes don't even realize how wealthy their parents are until much later in life. This secrecy is not about being stingy, but about being intentional. They choose to spend money on what truly matters: education, opportunities, and financial security. Speaking of children, another fascinating insight from the book is the way millionaires raise their families. Many wealthy parents are careful not to spoil their kids. They understand that giving children too much money too soon can destroy their work ethic and ambition. Instead of handing out cash or paying for endless luxuries, they encourage their children to work hard, save, and appreciate the value of money. They may provide support for education or help with important investments, but they avoid creating dependency. The authors discovered that many millionaires believe in something called economic outpatient care, which refers to parents financially supporting their adult children. But the data shows that those who received too much help often ended up being less financially successful than those who were pushed to earn and save on their own. In other words, overgiving can weaken future generations. Millionaires who truly want their wealth to last across generations focus more on teaching values than simply giving money. Another critical element in the lives of millionaires is entrepreneurship. A significant percentage of millionaires are small business owners, not corporate executives. They often run simple businesses: plumbing companies, construction firms, accounting services, car dealerships, that may not sound glamorous but generate consistent income. These businesses, combined with disciplined saving and investing, allowed them to accumulate wealth steadily. What's remarkable is that many of these entrepreneurs lived modestly, even after becoming successful. They reinvested profits into their businesses, saved aggressively, and only gradually improved their lifestyles. This mindset of patience and delayed gratification is one of the biggest differences between millionaires and the average consumer. The book also touches on the importance of choosing the right spouse. Many millionaires credit their partners for helping them maintain financial discipline. A supportive spouse who values frugality, hard work, and long-term planning can make or break a family's financial future. In contrast, if one partner is constantly overspending and chasing luxury, it can sabotage wealth-building efforts. The lesson here is that wealth is often a team effort. Finally, one of the most inspiring takeaways from the Millionaire Next Door is the idea that wealth is available to anyone who is willing to make the right choices. You don't need to be born rich. You don't need to have an unusually high income. What you need is discipline, consistency, and a willingness to go against the grain. While society pressures people to look rich, the millionaires next door quietly build real wealth by living differently. They know that money spent on showing off is money that could have been invested for freedom and security. The more we study the habits of millionaires, the more one truth becomes crystal clear. Wealth is not about luck, inheritance, or striking it rich overnight. It is about disciplined behavior, intentional decisions, and a mindset that values long-term security over short-term pleasure. The authors of The Millionaire Next Door discovered through their surveys and interviews that the majority of millionaires shared certain core values. They didn't just manage their money well, they approached their entire lives with careful planning, responsibility, and focus. To understand their mindset better, it's helpful to break down the 7 common traits that the authors found repeatedly in their research. These traits explain why millionaires are able to build and maintain wealth, while others struggle despite high incomes. The first trait is that millionaires live well below their means. Unlike the majority of people who spend as much as they earn, millionaires are intentional about controlling their expenses. They understand that every dollar saved is a dollar that can be invested and multiplied. This doesn't mean they live miserably or deny themselves every joy, but it does mean that they prioritize value over flash. For example, they might buy a car, but they choose one that is reliable rather than one that impresses others. They buy clothes that last, not brands that scream status. Their vacations are enjoyable but budget-friendly. Over time, these choices create a massive financial advantage. The second trait is that they allocate their time, energy, and money efficiently in ways that build wealth. While many people waste hours scrolling through social media, chasing trends, or trying to look rich, millionaires are deliberate about where they put their attention. They invest time in financial planning, budgeting, reading about investments, and building businesses. They are not passive about their future. They actively shape it with conscious decisions. The third trait is that millionaires believe that financial independence is more important than displaying high social status. This is a crucial difference. Society pressures people to show off their success through visible symbols like luxury homes and cars. But millionaires care less about what people think and more about securing their future. They don't mind if others underestimate them. In fact, many prefer to remain unnoticed because it allows them to live with less pressure and fewer expectations. Their true reward is the peace of mind that comes with financial security, not the fleeting admiration of strangers. The fourth trait is that their parents did not provide them with economic outpatient care, a term the authors use to describe financial handouts that make adult children dependent. Many millionaires grew up in modest households where they learned the value of hard work and saving. Instead of being spoiled with money, they were encouraged to build their own success. This upbringing built character and resilience, which played a huge role in their ability to accumulate wealth. The fifth trait is that adult children of millionaires are rarely financially dependent on their parents. Millionaire families often teach their children to stand on their own feet, rather than rely on inherited wealth. They may support education, but they avoid creating financial dependency. This way, wealth is preserved rather than drained. The sixth trait is that millionaires are excellent at identifying market opportunities. Many built businesses that catered to specific needs in the community, often in industries that most people overlook. They didn't chase glamorous careers. They built solid ones. The more you read into The Millionaire Next Door, the clearer it becomes that wealth has less to do with luck, inheritance, or extraordinary intelligence, and far more to do with choices, behaviors, and values that almost anyone can cultivate if they are willing. The millionaires Stanley and Danko profiled were not superhuman. They were ordinary people who built extraordinary results through consistent decisions over long periods of time. And this is where the book's greatest lesson lies. Wealth is not about flashy consumption, but about intentional living. Think about how society often defines success today. Expensive cars, massive homes, brand-name clothing, luxurious vacations. These are marketed as the symbols of making it. But the reality is that many who appear wealthy are actually financially fragile, drowning in debt and lacking any meaningful net worth. They are what the authors call under-accumulators of wealth, people who spend more time looking rich than becoming rich. In contrast, The millionaire next door quietly drives a used pickup truck, lives in a modest neighborhood, and wears regular clothes. Yet beneath that modesty lies a financial fortress built brick by brick through discipline, patience, and consistency. That contrast is the heart of the book. It is about unmasking the illusion of wealth and revealing the true practices that lead to lasting financial independence. Let's go deeper into a few final themes that tie everything together. First, there is the theme of independence. For many millionaires, money is not about power or status, it is about freedom. The freedom to make choices without being controlled by a paycheck, the freedom to walk away from a toxic boss, the freedom to spend time with family, the freedom to support causes they believe in. Financial independence becomes the ultimate reward for their disciplined lifestyle. Second, there is the theme of family. Stanley and Danko spend a great deal of time explaining how wealth can be preserved or destroyed across generations. Parents who instill values of hard work, discipline, and financial responsibility tend to raise children who respect wealth and grow it further. Parents who indulge their children with financial gifts and bailouts often end up creating dependency and entitlement, which destroys wealth. This is why many millionaires are surprisingly strict about not giving their children too much financial assistance. They believe in teaching them to stand on their own 2 feet, just as they themselves did. Third, there is the theme of environment. Millionaires are intentional about the people they surround themselves with. They do not feel the need to keep up with wealthy peers in high-status neighborhoods. They choose modest environments where they can be comfortable being themselves without constant pressure to overspend. This environment supports their habits rather than undermines them. Fourth, there is the theme of self-control. Becoming wealthy requires the ability to delay gratification, to resist impulsive purchases, and to prioritize long-term goals over short-term pleasures. In a world that constantly bombards us with advertising designed to make us spend, this self-control is rare and valuable. It is not about deprivation, but about clarity, knowing what truly matters and aligning spending with those values. Fifth, there is the theme of work ethic. Most millionaires did not win the lottery. They worked hard, often in ordinary businesses. They were consistent, disciplined, and persistent even when progress was slow. Wealth accumulation is like a snowball. It starts small, but if you keep rolling it steadily, it grows into something massive over time. These millionaires understood the compounding effect of small, smart financial choices repeated consistently. Let me tell you one more illustrative story that Stanley and Danko shared. A man they profiled was a self-employed pest control business owner. Nothing glamorous, no prestige, just steady work. He lived modestly, drove used cars, and rarely bought new furniture. But every year he saved diligently, invested in mutual funds, and reinvested the earnings. After 30 years, he had accumulated several $1 million in net worth. People in his community were shocked when they learned of his wealth. They had assumed he was just an average guy with a small business. But that was exactly the point. He was a millionaire next door, hiding in plain sight. Stories like this challenge the myth that wealth comes from extraordinary circumstances. The truth is, it often comes from ordinary people doing ordinary things with extraordinary consistency. So what are the practical takeaways for you? Number 1, track your finances. Millionaires know where their money goes. They budget, they plan, and they make conscious decisions. Without tracking, it's easy to overspend without even realizing it. Number 2, live below your means. This is the cornerstone of wealth building. If you consistently spend less than you earn and invest the difference, wealth accumulation becomes inevitable over time. Number 3, focus on net worth, not income. Earning a high salary means nothing if it all goes out the door in expenses. True wealth is measured by how much you keep and grow, not how much you earn. Number 4, avoid lifestyle inflation. When your income rises, don't automatically upgrade your lifestyle. Keep your expenses stable while increasing savings and investments. Number 5, invest wisely. Millionaires don't chase get-rich-quick schemes. They invest steadily in long-term assets, often in stocks, bonds, and real estate. They understand compounding and let time do the heavy lifting. Number 6, be intentional with family. Teach your children financial responsibility. Give them opportunities to work, save, and learn the value of money. Avoid creating dependency through endless financial gifts. Number 7, choose the right environment. Surround yourself with people and communities that support your financial goals, not sabotage them. If you constantly compare yourself to high-spending peers, you will feel pressure to overspend. Choose modesty and simplicity instead. Number 8. Build independence. Wealth is not just about possessions, it's about options. Prioritize financial independence so that you can live life on your own terms. Number 9. Embrace self-discipline. Wealth accumulation is not complicated, it's just not easy. It requires consistent self-control, patience, and delayed gratification. Number 10. Remember that wealth is a byproduct of values. Millionaires next door succeed because they value freedom, independence, family, and responsibility more than appearances. They understand that true success is not about being seen as wealthy, but about being truly wealthy. As you reflect on these lessons, ask yourself, do you want to look rich or do you want to be rich? That is the question Stanley and Danko leave with us. And the answer will determine the trajectory of your financial future. If you adopt the mindset and behaviors of the millionaire next door, you may not impress people with luxury cars or designer clothes in the short term, but in the long run, you will have something far more valuable: peace of mind, independence, and lasting prosperity. And here's the twist. You may already know someone who lives this way. They might be your neighbor, your coworker, or even a relative. They may not look like millionaires. They may live quietly, modestly, and without much fanfare. But behind the scenes, they have built wealth that gives them freedom most people can only dream of. The millionaires next door are not rare exceptions. They are proof that wealth is possible for anyone who is willing to live with discipline, patience, and purpose. And that perhaps is the most inspiring lesson of all. So as we close this journey through the millionaire next door, let the message sink deep. Wealth is not about what you drive, where you live, or how expensive your clothes are. Wealth is about the choices you make every day, the decision to save instead of spend, to invest instead of splurge, to plan instead of drift. These choices, compounded over years, create a life of true financial independence, and that life can be yours if you choose it. Because the millionaire next door is not someone else, it can be you. And maybe one day, someone will look at your modest lifestyle and be shocked to discover the financial fortress you quietly built behind the scenes. That is the hidden power of the millionaire next door. It's not about showing the world. It's about securing your freedom, your family's future, and your peace of mind. The question is, will you choose that path?